Okay, coming back with a new video. This is on the T5 transmission mount because it's different. This one has the transmission mount at an angle, as y'all could see. This is the transmission mount, and it has washers on one end with a longer screw to make it as even as possible. So when I put the actual Mercedes motor mount, transmission cross member here, where I can find it because I'm underneath the car. Let me see. Okay, I got it right here. Put the light right. Okay, that's the transmission mount. It's gonna line up perfectly with the 3 holes on both sides. It's gonna duck sideways on one side. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, because if you could see, there's a big gap right there. I'm gonna make a square tubing. I'm gonna cut out some square tubing, cut out the bottom of this support right here, put the square tubing so it makes it all the way to the top, but I'm gonna cut the square tubing one side off to make it like a U shape, to make that spacer for this motor mount. I'm gonna show y'all what I'm talking about, but I just wanted to cut y'all on so y'all could see step by step what's going on. All right, I'll cut y'all back on right now. Okay, continuing on the cross member for the transmission. This is what had to happen to make it work with the transmission, how it's a little bit higher than the motor mount. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use some box tubing right here. With my angle grinder, we're gonna cut it. What I did is I measured how long the bolt was, because that's how much lift I needed to touch this cross member. So what I did is I cut the square tubing to the size of the actual bolt, okay, of the transmission motor mount, which is this. This is how long the bolt is from the bottom of the motor mount to the end. That's how long it is. And I cut this area out right here, okay. Okay, and this is, this is where the transmission mounts up to from this side. So I'm gonna put in this tubing right here, and it's gonna give me that lift to reach the transmission. So I'm gonna drill a hole through here, weld it on both sides, and probably put some angle steel on both sides and weld it, all the way around. And that's gonna be my transmission mount right here, for the mounted onto this cross member. And that's where it is, because it's shot out to one side on that transmission. It's pretty weird, but that's the way it is. But that's what I came up with. I'll cut y'all back on once I get it welded up. Okay, this is what I came out with for the transmission cross member. This is a 1-inch tube, 2-inch tubing. I cut it down to 1 inch, and I welded it on there. Just tacked it on the corners for now. Okay, and if it all works out good, I'm gonna get 2 angles, put them right here on this side, one on the other side, weld it together, or some flat bar. I got flat bar too. Fill it in with some flat bar and weld around it and weld it to the sides. So let's go try it on. This is what it is. I'll cut y'all back on. Okay, coming back on the motor mount. It looks like it might work out perfect. There it is, holding onto the tranny. Okay, that's what it looks like. Okay, check that out. And it's because that's the way that transmission is, man. It's like the tail is turned at an angle because that's the way it mounts on those Camaros. It mounts pretty weird, but it centered off, and you know, I'm probably gonna put some steel all the way around that little square tubing, and that should work. Just gotta put the nut over it and we're good. All right, YouTube. Cut you back on when I get more done. All right, motor mount issue. I noticed that the motor mount, this is sitting in the middle. I'm gonna try to cut this out and bring it up more higher so that this is lining up more with the actual mount that's on the frame, so that I don't have the motor mounts at an angle like that. I have them more straight up on top of it. So I'm gonna try to modify that and see what we could come up with. All right, I'll catch y'all back on when I get more done. Okay, this is what I had to do to the motor mount to get it to work. I had to cut it out of the spot where it's at. As you see, that's where the motor mount used to be. And I moved it up and more to one side so it could line up with the actual frame motor mount. But that's what I had to do to it. As you can see, the original one, let me take this one off. You see, it's lower and to the top. I lowered it so that it gives me more room to be able to use more of this, you know, to have more arm to it. So that's what it had to look like on one side. This is the passenger side. So now I gotta move on to the driver's side and modify this one. So that's where I'm at. Things you gotta do to put an LS motor in a car. All right, cut you back on and I get more done. Okay, coming back with the motor mount build. I have it all lined up so like that y'all see what the hell I'm doing here. Okay, I already modified that motor mount. I moved it. Okay, let me bring in this one. These holes right here is where the motor mount used to be, in the middle. Okay, so I had to move it. Holy crap, it fell down in there. Sorry guys. It's all good. Okay, so I had to move it to the top. As you see, it's all the way to the top towards the firewall. Same thing for the opposite side. So I had to weld them up, cut them out, weld them up, shorten them. I had to shorten them also. So like that, they're able to line up with that motor mount like that. See, so what's gonna happen here is, this is a piece of cardboard that I have cut out to make my flat bar. And that's screwed on directly onto the motor mount of the car. And then you remove it so y'all can see, because I'm gonna need this piece of cardboard to trace it onto the steel. Okay, remove it, boom, the motor mount's right there. Okay, so after I drill out that flat bar that I'm gonna be working with, I'm gonna, like, once it's all drilled out and I put it on here, all I have to do is just trace it through the inside, cut it through the inside diameter of this, and then tack it on the corners, unscrew this and bring out the motor mount and weld it up. And she's good. I'm gonna weld it to the top, and through the bottom I'm using a 1/4 inch steel for the flat bar. So that's how it's gonna be mounted on there, and I think it's gonna be a perfect fit. It lined up perfectly. So all I gotta wait for is my oil pan and the water pump that are coming. The water pump's coming today, and oil pan's coming on Wednesday. And so I got the 2 AC compressors. This is the AC compressor to the Mercedes. Okay, it's like a $400 compressor. It works. It's got Freon in it right now. Somehow I can't configure it to this, but I'm gonna have the alternator right here and the power steering pump somewhere right here, and I think it's gonna interfere with the bracket. So I got the Chevy truck AC compressor here, mounted with the actual bracket, and it fit perfect. I got perfect clearance on both sides. Disregard this cooling line. Okay, I moved it. It's gonna go through the bottom, that cooling line, to the water pump. That's gonna be somewhere over here. So I think I'm gonna run with the truck one. I got the lines and I'm gonna get them welded on. Sometimes they just cut them right here, like they'll cut them with the aluminum tube. Get the other one, make a coupling, and they weld them together, and they'll make you any kind of AC hose that you need at some place that I go to. Okay, so that's settled with the AC, so I'm removing the other side. Either way, I need the clearance for the header. So that's what's gonna happen on this side. But that's where I'm at, everybody. One step at a time. Okay, this is the exhaust manifold for the passenger. Oh no, for the driver's side. It needed more bending out this way. So what I did is I cut the actual header all the way across, as you can see, and I left just a little bit down here still connected to it, and I just banged it on the ground, and I'm bending it this way and kicking out the exhaust manifold out more that way. So I got it where I need it to be finally, but now I need to cut this flange up all around and just leave the actual center hole. I'm gonna put a pipe through the middle of it so I could be able to use it, and I'll just make a collector at the bottom of the car. So that's what's next. I'm gonna cut this up. That's what it's be looking like. Okay, to the inside. All right, let me continue. Okay, coming back with the video on the oil pan. This is the oil pan that I got. Okay, it's the one with the smaller slump, and then the the smaller radius down here. You see how that one's a little different. So this one's gonna give me more clearance on those tight spaces, and the oil filter stays in the same spot and everything. So I like that oil pan. Gonna go on the build, working on the header still, almost there, but that's where I'm at. Right now I'm gonna put it back on the engine stand. I'll put y'all back on when I get more accomplished. Okay, YouTube, the motor's out. Putting on the oil pan, big difference. Okay. So next is I got in there inside the engine compartment. You see that big dent that's dented in that way? I did that with a sledgehammer. I beat the crap out of that corner. I bent it in because my manifold was touching right there. And the rest of the shield, I grabbed a rubber mallet and I just banged all of it and molded it tight to the actual car, because it has a lot of, I guess, play in the back of it. It's really not touching the wall, so now it's like molded to whatever's back there, So hopefully that gives me enough clearance of what I needed right there. But I should be good. I'll mess with the manifold if I have to. Well, I'm just waiting for I'm gonna put the new bolt on the damper, and that's it. Drop it back in. Okay, one thing at a time. Okay, now it's the motor. We're working on the motor mounts right here. What I have done is first thing, I removed these bushings out from the motor mount that comes from, you know, the eBay, and I'm gonna turn it into a solid. Gonna weld it up right here. This is the flat bar that I had. Once I took off these bushings, I was able to line it up on here and then just draw out the pattern. Cut it out with the angle grinder. Now I just need to figure out on this side how low I could put it. You know, I'm gonna be cutting like some pies off right there till I get the right angle like this, so that I have enough clearance for my header right here. Okay, working on the driver's side now. So that's where I'm at. I'll catch y'all back on when I get more done. All right, motor mounts are pre-fabbed. Now I just need to weld them all together. The compression of the boat is actually holding everything in place. I'm gonna come with my welder and I'm gonna tack the corners and tack it up here and in here, and then pull it out and weld it all up. But that's what I came out with. That's the passenger side and the driver side. So let me weld them up and I'll show y'all what they look like after they're done. And there is more, I noticed that there's more space on my passenger side than there is on my driver's side. Like, the motor is centered, okay? It's centered in the middle, but that's just the way the design of the car is. There's more space on the passenger side than there is on the driver's side, because that was throwing me off too. But the transmission is on there right now and it's lined up straight in the middle of the tunnel, and this is where the motor's gonna sit. This is where it's gonna rest. But you know, it was kind of tricky figuring it out, but it's all done. So let me get on the welding and I'll catch y'all back on when I get more done. Okay, here are the motor mounts all welded up. Now I just need to sandblast them, paint them black, but they're mounted right on the actual motor mounts of the car. They both came out good. They're bolted down right now, and the actual motor is sitting on the Mercedes. So I have enough wheel gap. I don't think the car's gonna bottom out like everybody was telling me it was gonna do. So, and I had this piece of 3/4 plywood in between the cross member and the oil pan, so like that I could get the gap. Yep, there's a gap in between it. Now the motor is not resting on the cross member of the actual car, so we're good. The oil pan sits flush with the cross member, so it's all good, man. So now it's just time to do all the other work, the plumbing, the exhaust. But the engine is finally mounted in the car.